Hi, and welcome to Come to the Table. Today I wanted to share my top 10 list of my own personal favorite board games that I've played thus far. And I've even decided to recruit my kids to help me introduce each one of these games. So, without further ado, let's get to the list. Number 10.
Title Blade.
Tidal Blades is a worker placement, dice upgrading game where you play as warriors in training, participating in a competition to be the next Tidal Blade, and protect your island nation from creatures coming in from the fold. Your competitor can visit 6 different locations that provide a variety of different actions and bonuses. Points are scored by completing challenges, climbing the championship board, upgrading your abilities, and challenging creatures at the fold. Along the way, you will have chances to upgrade your dice to specialize them and make it easier to roll the symbols that you need. The player that has the most points at the end of the 4th round wins. My whole family loves Tidal Blades. We love upgrading the dice and unlocking our character abilities. The artwork and the components are just beautiful. I also love the risk versus reward of the fold. Just a very entertaining and engaging game. Number 9.
Ark Nova.
Ark Nova is a card-driven engine-building game where you oversee your own zoo. You need to build enclosures to hold your animals and then choose which animal goes into each enclosure. This increases the appeal of your zoo to visitors, which is one of the 2 ways that points are scored in this game. The other way is by doing conservation projects by collecting animals in the same family, or from different continents, or from releasing animals back to the wild. The gameplay is driven by a rotating set of 5 actions. Each turn you get to choose one of the 5 actions to take, and then that action is moved to the bottom of the rotation. The farther to the right the action is when you take it, the more powerful that action becomes. Gameplay continues until one person's appeal points meet their conservation points, and after final scoring, the player whose point markers are the farthest past each other wins. The action selection in this game really works, and strategies vary widely from game to game. I also really like how the endgame scoring works because it makes you concentrate on both appeal points and on conservation points. It also has a very puzzly aspect to it, trying to pick out the right sequence of turns to do everything in the correct order, to play the cards you want to play, and to set up your zoo to score the most points. I'm excited to try the new expansion when it comes out. Number 8.
Steampunk Rally.
Steampunk Rally is a dice placement racing game where you play as historical inventors that have been invited to take part in a race where they build vehicles on the spot out of spare parts and race them as far as they can each round, where damaged parts will fall off and new parts replace them the next round. To power these contraptions, dice are collected, rolled, and placed into the contraption to activate abilities that give the player movement, shields, more dice, and cogs. Dice that are placed stay on the contraption and must be removed using cogs or dice removal abilities before another die can be placed into that spot. Parts for the contraption are drafted each round and must be connected to other parts by completing connections that lead back to the main cockpit. Once a player crosses the finish line, one more round is played and the player that is the farthest past the finish line wins. My favorite part of Steampunk Rally is that it has simultaneous play for up to 8 players at once. I love finding new combinations of parts to use with different inventors, testing whether to go with a smaller contraption or a larger one, trying to push how far I can go in a round without completely destroying my vehicle, and testing out all the tracks that are available in the base game and the expansion. Number 7.
Plank in Space.
Clank in Space is a deck building game where you take on the role of a thief trying to sneak your way through Lord Erraticus' ship, steal one of his prized treasures, and get out before you get captured. Along the way, you will need to hack data points to get access to the cargo hold, pick up secrets that give you bonus points and actions, improve your deck by buying cards, defeat enemies to earn points and bonuses, and buy items from the market giving you bonus health or ways to take shortcuts through the ship. If you make it back to the escape pods, you earn bonus points, while getting captured before making it back to the starting tile means you're out of the game. Any noise you make while moving through the ship results in adding clank to the clank area, and when a boss attack card is added to the market, all of the cubes in the clank area are added to the bag and a number of cubes equal to the rage track is pulled out. A black cube means nobody takes damage, but if your color cube is pulled, it is added to your damage track. 10 damage means you've been captured. After all players have either been eliminated or successfully escaped from the ship, points are added and the highest points wins. Deck building games are one of my favorites, and this is my favorite deck building game. Pulling the cubes from the bag adds a level of tension and excitement to the game as you try to decide, do I want to grab a lower point treasure and race for the exit, or do I venture deeper into the ship for the high point treasures but risk being eliminated before I'm able to escape? This game is easy to teach and has fast enough turns to keep everyone engaged. Number 6.
Great Western Trail.
Great Western Trail is a highly strategic game that uses many different design elements like deck building, hand management, and engine building. You play as a rancher herding your cattle from Texas to Kansas City, where you sell your herd and go back to Texas to start again. Along the way, you choose different buildings to stop at, giving you a variety of different actions, such as buying buildings that you can stop at along the way, purchasing better cattle for your herd, hiring employees that make other actions easier, moving your train down the track, expanding your train network to cut down on shipping costs, and selling specific cattle to get various bonuses. This is a game where points are scored in many different ways, and it's up to you to decide which strategy works the best for you. The game ends when the job market reaches the bottom of the track and the high score wins. I love the different strategies you can choose when you're playing this game. Do I invest heavily in buildings to slow my opponents down and give me more options? Do I go heavy into the cattle market to make more money each trip around the board? Do I expand my train network and make more rail stations and try to ring the bell at the end of the track for huge points? Or maybe some combination of those. I really like the Rails to the North expansion for the game because it adds so many more options and bonuses, and I think it loosens up the game a bit more and makes it more enjoyable. Number 5.
Caverna.
Caverna is a worker placement, resource management, farming game. You each have your own player board that is divided into the farming half and the cave half. Over 12 rounds, you place your workers on the shared board to clear fields, plant crops, acquire and breed animals, clear out space in your cave, discover coal and ruby mines, build rooms which give you bonuses such as more resources, endgame points, or more rooms to hold workers, and go on expeditions to bring back resources. At the end of most of the rounds, you will be harvesting crops, getting more animals, and feeding your workers. Not being able to feed workers gives you negative points at the end of the game. Almost everything in this game is worth points, so it's up to you to decide which strategy will work for you from game to game. There are a huge amount of rooms to build and experiment with different combinations to make your farm more efficient and worth more points at the end of the game. After 12 rounds, points are calculated and the high score wins. In my opinion, Caverna is one of the most pure worker placement games out there. There are so many different strategies and ways to score points it will take many playthroughs to experiment with them all, and that is what makes this game fun for me. I love how the exploration action adds a whole strategic dimension to the game. I also like how the action board scales depending on how many players there are and how much it changes up the strategy. This one doesn't hit the table as much as I would like because of its length, but it's still one of my favorites. Number 4.
Western Legends.
Western Legends is an open world game where you take on the role of a historic figure from the Old West trying to earn legendary points and be the most legendary character by the end of the game. This game lets you live your character's life however you want to within the context of the game. You can be a wanted villain and rob the bank, or rustle cattle, or rob your fellow players. You can be a marshal and go after wanted players, or bandits, or go along on cattle drives. Or you can be neutral and spend your time playing poker, mining for gold, or partying at the cabaret. Along the way, you can stop at the shops to buy better mounts, weapons, and other items to assist you. The mini expansions also add a train to rob or ride, homesteads, an outlaw camp, an advanced story mode, a gambler track, events that can add more dangers to the board, injuries, and a whole lot more. Once a player reaches a predetermined amount of legendary points, the final score is tallied and the highest score wins. I have taught and played this game with probably close to 50 different people, and everybody that I played with loved it. There's just so much to do and so much gameplay to explore. The multi-use cards work so well in this game, and there's enough player interaction for it to be exciting without feeling mean. I love the legendary items that the expansions add because it just adds so much more flavor to the game. Just an overall great game. Number 3.
Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Lost Ruins of Arnak utilizes worker placement, deck building, and resource management in a perfect blend. You are explorers who have just discovered a lost island, and it is up to you to explore it, discover its treasures, and research and publish your findings. Over 5 rounds, you can discover new sites, which come with guardians to overcome, purchase new equipment and artifacts to add to your deck, and spend resources to move up the research track, getting bonuses along the way, acquiring assistance, and making your way to the top where you can buy bonus tiles for big points. You can also remove cards from your deck such as Fear, which give you negative points at the end of the game. The expansion Expedition Leaders lets you take on the role of different explorers, giving you asymmetric player powers and new research tracks to climb, as well as new items, new artifacts, new sites to discover, and new guardians to overcome. After 5 rounds, points are tallied and the highest score wins. Did I mention that I love worker placement games, and deck building games, and resource management games? This game is a great blend of all 3. The theme just oozes through this game with amazing artwork and components. The resource management in this game is tight, and you have to plan ahead and make tough decisions. Do I overcome a guardian? Move up the research track? Buy better cards? Explore new sites? There are no easy decisions in this game, and that is what I like the best about it. Number 2.
Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming Mars is another game that uses a lot of different design elements. Engine building, resource management, action selection, and a little bit of area control thrown in. In it, you are competing corporations that have been tasked with making Mars habitable for life. In order to do that, you have to raise the average temperature from -32 Celsius to +8, raise the oxygen level from 1% to 14%, and create 9 oceans. You're all doing this together, but competing to see who can do it the best and score the most points. Everybody has their own player board that keeps track of the 6 different resources used in the game, and the cards that you play will affect how many of the different resources you get each round, or give you additional actions to activate, or they can add different tiles to the board representing cities, greenery, or a variety of other tiles including nuclear explosions and meteor strikes. Once all 3 terraforming parameters have been met, players finish the current round and final scores are tallied. I just love the flow of this game. You start out with practically nothing and just start building up your resources, and eventually the game just sort of bubbles over into a race for points towards the end. There are so many different corporations, each with their own unique abilities, as well as 5 different expansions that bring huge changes to the game. The amount of different cards in this game is staggering, but it creates a game where you can't win the same way twice in a row. You constantly have to adapt to what the game is giving you and figure out the best strategy moving forward. Between the digital version and the tabletop version, I've played this game well over 100 times and still love it, and that's why it is my number 2 game. And my number 1 favorite game of all time is Everdell. Everdell is a worker placement, resource management, tableau building game. You are anthropomorphic animals that are gathering resources in order to build their own city. You can gather twigs, resin, and stone to construct buildings, and gather berries to attract different type of critters to your city. Each type of critter and construction has their own unique abilities that will either give you more resources, draw cards, give you extra points, or create more worker placement spots for you to go. Each type of construction also pairs with the type of critter, and if you play the construction first, you get to play the critter for free. Cards can be played from your hand or directly from the meadow, which are card options that are shared by all players. You start the game in winter with only 2 workers and progress through the seasons until autumn, getting more workers and activating cards in your city until everyone has finished the autumn season. Points are then tallied and the highest score wins. There are also 5 different expansions that add more content to the game, including more placement spots with frog ambassadors, an expedition track that give you points for extra resources you have at the end of the game, a train station that adds more spaces for community cards, legendary critters and constructions, and an alternate solo mode. I love this game! The artwork for this game is amazing. The giant Evertree overshadowing the board adds such a great table presence. The variety of cards and expansions and modules means you can play it over and over again, and it's a totally different game every time. The resource management in this game is very restrictive since you only get 15 worker placements per game. This is another game that, because of the sheer amount of different cards, you can't rely on a specific strategy to work. You have to be able to adjust and adapt your strategy to what the game gives you, and I think that's just so great. And that's my top 10. Thank you for watching, and as always,
Please like, share, and subscribe.